Unahagenisinga Zanabechu Nabamiya Dachina. Welcome back, everyone, to Rising Warriors. Rachael Kulei. I am affiliated with the Shoshone Nation, but I've also come from the Nez Perce Osage and the Blackfeet people. And today I have my beautiful cousin back with us, Dr. Sherrie Davis. And we've been talking the past, a couple of weeks about cutting cords and the importance of this. And what kind of brought this on was, if you've been watching some of my other podcasts, you'll know that I've been dealing with relationships and cutting cords from that. And so it was about a couple weeks ago, I've been trying to really cut the last bit of my cords from my ex-partner. And I've been trying so hard on different ways of all of the knowledges and things that I know to cut and release these cords. But sometimes we need that assistance from someone else to come in and help release these cords and curses and things that can be attached to us. And so it ended up being that one day, a couple of weeks ago, I just was having a horrible day and was feeling all of these cords and my energy was being drained. And it was like I couldn't see. I was having a really hard time having that clarity, vision, having a hard time dreaming. And so I ended up going to one of my side jobs and I'm just hanging out and I was going to leave, but then I kept getting set to just stay put. And I'm like, but there's stuff I need to go do. And I hear, no, you stay. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm like standing outside with my best friend. We're having a prayer smoke and I'm like, all right. She's like, okay, Rachael, you got to cut him from social media and you got to start cutting these ties to get your voice back. And she's like, this is what I did. And I'm like, okay. So I went on to, I think it was Snapchat or something first, and I deleted him, blocked him off of there. And then all of a sudden, like, I just felt this release and she starts hugging me. She's like, and she's like having this like happy moment together and like crying because she and I both have been going through these like hellstorms of relationships for the past 3 years with these guys. So we kind of like our stories have been like kind of lined up in ways for the past couple of years. So we're like having this moment of like she's proud of me and all this, and then I'm like, okay, there's more. But then all of a sudden I was like, I look over and there's Sherrie walking up the street and coming to the salon, and I'm like, well, shit, there's my cousin. Like I'm like, this is why I'm here. So we go inside and I don't say anything to her. And I'm just like kind of doing something. And then I don't even remember why I went and leaned forward, but it was almost like I got shoved forward to you. And then all of a sudden you're like, is your head hurting? And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, it is like, it's hurting so bad. I'm like, and then I like my third eye, I'm like, I can't see. I'm having all this pain. And she's like, well, are you going to be here for a little bit longer? And I was like, I guess so. So she goes and takes care of herself. And then we went back into the spa room and she started doing a healing session on me. And we started releasing all of these cords and these curses that were attached to me that I didn't know. And these cords, you know, they ended up actually being attached to almost my whole entire body. And it wasn't just a cord in my heart. It wasn't just a cord in my brain. It wasn't just a cord in my sacral chakra. Like it literally was my whole entire body, where it was making me feel like I was being electrocuted every morning for hours because the nerves were just completely seized up and fired up. So Sherrie takes me back, you know, I take her back into the room, but she starts working with me. And we ended up actually going into this healing ceremony and releasing all of these cords and curses. And I finally was like, I told her afterwards, and I was like, I've been needing someone to help me through this, but I've been stubborn as hell to try to, you know, actually like reach out and not want to be a burden to anybody through my stuff. And so I'm like, okay, like, I guess like you're the one that needed to help me. So after that, it was interesting because when we cut and we release cords, especially in like in the native way, we're always told like the 4 days you don't have any contact with that person. You stay off the social media, you stay off camera, you kind of stay in this quiet, sacred space. And then during that time, that person always tries to reach out. And sure enough, it was, I think, 2 days later, boom, the guy tried reaching out again and tried to record, and then that didn't work. So then he tried to spiritually come and record. Then he tried to spiritually attack and record. So like there was this spiritual battle after that 4 days of, releasing those cords that was attached to him. But he kept coming in and all these different angles trying to reconnect and record. And what's the interesting thing is that when we have these cords and these curses, and it holds us back from things. And most of you know I'm in a new relationship with Eric. And so it's interesting because we released these cords, and then a week later he proposed to me. So it's like, so to me, even more so, it was like even more like revealing to my eyes of like, wow, this really does have an effect in our relationships with other people. And, even like friends or family, or, people you haven't quite met, it really affects being able to even connect in those things. So after that experience, I was talking with Sherrie, and I'm like, okay, we got to talk about this. And I want you to come on the podcast, and we're going to talk about cords and curses and things, because I didn't really understand what these were until my previous marriage, when I was going through my divorce and dealing with cancer. And I had no idea what cords and these curses were. I was just, learning. And Sherrie's the one that's like, no, you have cording here, you have a curse here, you have this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this explains all of these feelings that I've been having, that I've been feeling like I've been just going crazy, and like it's made up in my head. Nobody understands what's going on. And so it was like, finally, okay, this is really happening. It's not made up in my head. Like there's confirmation. And then the ancestors come in and start showing dreams and visions through you, through me. And so it was like all of these things started happening. And I'm like, okay, this is real. Like this isn't just some hogwash, hocus pocus. Like, all right, this is real. And so going into the new year, everybody's going through all these changes and transformations and whatnot. And so one of the biggest things is releasing these courses, these curses and these cordings, so that you can move forward and, not get out of the self-sabotage even too. So we're going to turn it over to Sherrie, and she's going to go through and explain to us different types of cording and curses, and different ways to recognize those things, and also releasing them in our way, in a different way, without having someone else assist you if you don't have that access. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Rachael. Thank you so much. Yeah, you made a really good point about how energy of others can affect your everyday life and your surroundings, because it really can. If you think about, say, negative energy, for instance, what does negative energy do? It drains you. It can actually cause you to become sick. And I've seen over time and time with patients of my own where they've been in toxic relationships, or they may have a toxic family member that keeps them down, and they constantly are battling just to keep healthy and to not feel sick and drained all the time. And so people don't realize sometimes negative energy or cursed energy that can come from ancestral dimensions through our ancestries, many generations back, we developed what's called an ancestry trauma, for instance. Okay. And that trauma can pass down through our DNA, and we can have traits, we can have emotions, we can have certain, illnesses that start to plague our body that is all hereditary, right? But that spiritual part is also part of that as well, because we do carry some of that, snippet of their DNA, even though we have no memory of what they went through, but our DNA does. And so, and that's a really important piece too that we'll talk about. And but like with toxic relationships, for instance, and so many of us have been through that, men, women, whoever, children, even, we have to protect our children. And and when you're constantly put under attack and you're constantly feeling that drained energy and never able to really get that happiness back, where maybe before that relationship started, you had that high positive energy and you felt great, right? And then over years and years, it became more drained and more drained. And now cords are what you would call a spiritual attachment. So basically, it's an energy that becomes connected to what you would consider your life force or the energy field of your body. And so then it can affect the organ function. So we each have, each organ holds an emotion as well, but there's also a spiritual attachment that can happen through other people. And even ourself, self-sabotage, right? Those type of behaviors. Sometimes self-sabotage will attract those types of abusers. So even if we don't realize it or see it, but not everybody has self-sabotage, but there's a dynamic of people that do. But then you've got to look at what is a cord, right? A cord can attach to the heart. That's an emotional energy that attaches here. It can attach to the solar plex, which is your life force energy, it's part of your drive, your passion, your creativeness. It supports all the organ systems there. And then when we start feeling drained, that life force energy gets drained, right? And so basically a cord is like an invisible energy, right? We can't see it, but we can feel it. And what it'll feel like sometimes when I'm going down and I'm working on someone's body and I'm looking at the energy field, I can feel where the block is. Often you'll feel heaviness or you'll feel kind of a fuzzy little tingle type of feeling off of it. Or a block, or it just feels really blocked there. Usually when you go down the body, you can feel, is there a block? Because usually the energy will be smooth all the way. If it isn't and there's a block, all of a sudden you feel like your hand is getting stuck. Sometimes I'll even use my feathers and brush down and look at it that way, because the feathers will react to the energy field of the body. And so, but that energy cord can cord in so many different ways. It can cord through our children, from the toxic person that we had the relationship with in the past, because that toxic person will manipulate the children and then keep that constant negativity going back and forth. And, and that manipulation that happens with that person. And so that's where you have to learn how to clear those emotional cords that come with, not just the children, but the past relationship. And then that, diversity that goes back and forth. But then too, it can also affect your kidneys. So sometimes people will say, oh, I have really bad back pain, or I can't hardly walk today, and it'll attach right there to the low back. And often that's also about your path that you're walking. And it's also part of the confidence center. And so kind of like draining that confidence out, if I can't have it, neither can you. So I'm going to take it, from that toxic person that's, part of that relationship of courting. And so there's different things that it can affect your body, so it can cause physical illness, physical pain, emotional and physical drain. And basically a cord, like I said, is like an invisible energy. If you think about the energy field and the chakra systems and the polarity of the body, that energy field of the body can be, manipulated or affected by toxic energy. And so, I know many of us as women have been in, terribly toxic relationships, right? Men have too, not that it doesn't happen to them, but I would say a majority of women have it more. And you'll see that toxic energy coming off of that person that they had that relationship with keeps them constantly drained, connected in that way, manipulating them through, whether it's through their children or something else, even financially, so we have to learn to become that independent and not be financially dependent on that person. And
Right.
so, because that too can be a way that they control,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a controlling factor. Anything in exchange has an energy connection. So
Right.
whether it's through money, whether it's through something else, so, but in either way, we can create our own, right? And not
Mm-hmm.
have to depend on others. And
Right.
so, but yeah, like toxic relationships, getting back to that, it's important that, as just like clearing the house out, right? You're
Right.
basically clearing the house of your body out from all the toxic layers of past relationships. Even if it was a relationship that maybe didn't go well, but they weren't abusive, but you
Mm-hmm.
still want to clear those cords, because you want to be able to allow yourself to let go of any past things that may have happened,
Right.
or things that were wrong, in that relationship. So it allows you to move forward too, because sometimes what'll happen is it'll keep you blocked from, say you want to go into a new relationship, but there's
Mm-hmm.
this big block that gets put up with it. And it's because that person in the past keeps courting and trying to block that energy. I call it kind of your piece of happiness, basically, that
Yeah.
they don't want because they're miserable. Right.
Right.
So you'll see people like that are just, they have this, negativity of misery and self-sabotage, where they also do that to others, whether they're still in the relationship with that person or not. They still
Right.
sabotage them. And
Right.
so I call it, when you never heal from the trauma of your past relationships, you bleed on the ones that never hurt you, right?
Right.
So basically, it's like you got to clear those cords. You've got to let go of those past elements, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual, and sometimes we can have these karmic energies that come on us as well, whether it's
Mm.
through our own demise or whether it's through something in the past.
Right.
And so that can be a corded energy as well. So often when I'm doing like healing ceremonies to clear these cords from people, and like with yours, when I saw you that day and you leaned over and was giving me a hug, and then boom, I got a bad headache from it. And I was like, wow, girl, you have a bad headache and
Yeah.
cords connected to you all over the place. We got to clear that stuff,
Yeah.
right? And you could just feel it, like this heavy, heavy toxicity that was attacking you. And
Yeah.
so then it was really about that timing too. Sometimes people aren't ready to let go of those things, right? And they keep holding on to it, and they're not ready to let go of what you would call the emotional baggage.
Right.
And so, because we don't want to carry the emotional baggage of others, which often people do. And that
Mm-hmm.
will usually go to your shoulders, upper back, neck, and your low back. And
Right.
that's where that emotional baggage will just keep carrying on and on through generations, even through family dynamics. Like, say, maybe growing up in an abusive household, what do? We carry those emotional baggages that come from our parents and grandparents and so on. And
Mm-hmm.
so then we've got to learn how to clear that energy and no longer carry it or repeat it, especially no longer passing it down to our children and allowing
Right.
them to carry it as well. And so, yeah. And so when you look at the energy field of the body, it's really like, what are we carrying? Often we can have those, emotional traumas, right? And traumas can show up as anxiety, depression, PTSD. It can
Mm-hmm.
show up in many ways of emotional traits, but it can also show up in a physical trait or an illness in the body. And
Right.
so, yeah, and cancer, often I'll find too that, cancer a lot of times, yes, is viral driven, but often there can be a negative energy connected to it. And so, whether it's through somebody who, say, maybe you're in a toxic, abusive relationship, over time, your DNA reacts to that negativity and it starts mutating. And
And
then you
that's what
start
happened
becoming
with me.
sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened with me with my stage 4 cancer that you were helping
Uh-huh.
me with. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because it can really affect your physical well-being and body. I know when I look back in my past, and I was probably about your age at the time, Rachel, about 36 or so, and I ended
Uh-huh.
up with uterine cancer and ovarian cancer, and I was really sick. I got super skinny and just really, really ill. And when I
Yeah.
look back on it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was married to the most toxic, abusive person, and I was not sick until I got into that relationship.
Right.
And I was healthy. I worked out like crazy, and I was getting ready for a bodybuilding show, was just in top fit shape, right? And then
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden, ate well, did everything right, as per that. But then here came this one dynamic that ended up affecting everything and turned my whole life upside down, basically.
Right. Right.
And so then I had to leave that eventually. And then when I did, of course, many of us have experienced, men and women both, when you leave that relationship, they get all obsessed. They can stalk you. They can, even stalk your Facebook page and social media to your friends, connect with your friends, trying to keep recording in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
because they will try to reach out to your friends and relatives and record that way as well, because they're connected to you.
Exactly.
And so, or manipulate through children or, social media, online pages, because that's still an energy transfer there too. So we connect through many different diversities.
Right.
And, but going back to ancestry trauma that we can inherit, sometimes we'll carry emotional baggages that come from our ancestry many years back, for instance, I did a past life regression and emotional code release therapy on myself about a year ago when I kept having these dreams over and over of, this Revolutionary War and my ancestors fighting in that war. And I was like, whoa. And then I woke up with this panic attack, right? And had this vivid memory of everything that happened to them. But then it gave me the kind of awakening to realize what I was attracting in my life caused by what happened in the past to my ancestors. What was it that I was carrying, basically? And then being able to recognize that and start clearing the cords and the inherited karmic energies and, things that happened to them, basically, and traumas that were
Right.
layers and layers of traumas back to my 7th generation, 8th generation grandmother and grandfather. And sometimes you can go even further back into those generations where we inherit so many things, whether it's emotional, energetically, spiritually, physically, different traits. And so, and that's really important to be able to, even if we don't know where it comes from or what it is, you can still clear it in the energy field in the physical body by, allowing the spirit to recognize through the subconscious that there's something there. And you don't even have to know what it is. You just have to know that you're carrying something that maybe is unidentified, but it is there. Sometimes we'll have what's called phantom pains, or say the doctor can't find anything wrong with you, right? And then they'll say, oh, it's all in your head, or it must be something else, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they can't figure it out, because they never will figure it out, because often it is a spiritual issue or it's a cord that is connected to you.
Right.
And that cannot be seen in a blood test or an x-ray, right? It's really about kind of understanding the knowledge of the spiritual and the energetics of the body.
Right.
So that's really important too. It's just as important as the physical elements when you're thinking about health, right? And because when you don't realize, a lot of people, I call them walking around with blinders, right? They don't see anything outside of anything. They feel nothing,
I call them the
It's like,
zombies.
yeah, basically.
The
Yeah.
zombies.
Yeah. They don't recognize things that are happening at the moment or in the past, and until they may have an awakening or something happens that awakens. And then they will recognize it and realize. But often when they do, they're also in denial. I have a boyfriend like that. It kind of lives in denial. I was telling, and he's native, and I said,
Yeah.
and you're not in touch with your native side at all, you're in denial of all this stuff that happened to you. We need to clear these cords, right? And so sometimes people will walk around like that, but you're right. It's like a zombie, basically. You're walking
Yeah.
around in numbness, not realizing that, oh, this is affecting my life,
Yes.
right? And how it affects your life. And so, but yeah, often people will have that, it just happens, when they don't have a spiritual awareness or awakening and they're not in tune with their body.
Right.
A good portion of people aren't in tune with their body. They, aren't educated to realize, oh, here's my liver over here on the right side of my body, and my spleen's on the left, and my gallbladder's behind the liver and the pancreas, and so, and where your heart is, and then the energetics of the purpose of those organs as well.
Right.
And how they function, not just in the physical form, but also the energy form. And so when we have cords from past relationships, it'll go to the heart, solar plex, it'll block it there because that's part of your drive. Sometimes it'll go to the low back and neck. Kind of like
or
when
like
I was
with me, it went to the third eye.
Your third eye, right? And it created this huge headache and this heaviness. Often people will carry what they might call pressure or heaviness. And often that can be an energy that they're carrying, whether it's emotional baggage or it's coming from someone else.
Right.
Empaths, especially being more sensitive. And there's a lot of people out there that don't realize that they are empaths or have never really dealt with it, basically, or really experienced, how to use it. And often when I'm seeing patients and I'm muscle testing them and looking at things in their energy field, and I'm going, you're really sensitive and empathic. So basically, that just basically is a higher kinesthetic sensory. And so our sensory field is there to protect us, right? So we have what's called gut instinct or animal instinct, as they call it. And we act on it like that, right? Some people don't, they ignore it. Right. And it's there for a purpose to protect us or warn us about something. And so, and it's just a built-in mechanism that we all have. We're born with it. But what happens is that energy field can become drained, so, but yeah, the cutting of the cords is really interesting because the person has to be open enough to be able to allow for somebody to help them, right? And they have to give themselves permission also to be able to move forward and be able to heal from those past elements of, whether it's trauma, stress, anxiety, or fear of something. Sometimes I'll have patients that they come in with a lot of fear and depression and don't know why they have it, or they have high anxiety, and that anxiety triggers them because they're picking up on other things of other people. And so, but then they're courting also with those people. Right. And so every day we energetically connect to many people, right? That we come in contact with. And often when you're really, really connected to that person, this happens with my mom and I often, where, I'll call her all of a sudden because I feel her saying, why hasn't Sherrie called me? Right. Yeah. And then I pick up the phone and go, hey, Mom. And then she's like, hey, mind reader, call it, because she just sent that wavelength of energy, right? So because it's your brain sends out the vibration of energy through thought. But that energy can also affect other people, whether it's negative or positive. Right. And positive energy lifts that energy up and gives you energy, where negative energy drains you and keeps you down. Right. And often we've all experienced that at one time in our life, if not more. Right. And so, but, and kind of like when I was working with you that day, working on your neck was all inflamed. You had a bad headache, your shoulder hurt, your low back was a mess. I felt
like I was wearing shoulders as earrings.
Yeah. Basically, that's what it does, because it tenses the body up. Over time, we start to carry this negativity from that person, right, that's attacking us constantly,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're attacking us through texting, calling, social media, messaging, those kind of things, or through other family members or friends.
Right.
And there's different ways and dimensions that those people can constantly keep that attack going, or cause division basically between people.
Right.
And so that too, can affect all relationships around you.
Which is
With
so
whatever
true
that person is
because
doing.
I've been experiencing that this past week since my engagement. All of my since my engagement, somehow my exes found out about it and they have been attacking, and they've been so like my ex-husband, he actually told me that he cursed me that I would never be in another relationship again, that I would never find happiness, that no one would ever love me, no one would ever accept me for my traumas and my pain and my past and all of these things. And he would constantly always say, I'll do whatever I can to make sure no one ever has you. So but you don't have that power over me. But I did witness and experience him actually, because he wasn't able to attack me on the physical. He wasn't able to attack me on the spiritual. So then he went through different dimensions and started attacking me through different dimensions in my sleep. And so then it started, so then he started coming through my dreams and was actually trying to stand in front of Eric in my dreams and try to say that Eric couldn't hear me and Eric couldn't save me from him. And it wasn't, so then I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. So then I end up like screaming for help. And then Eric heard me and woke me up. And I'm like, he's at it again. So it's that same thing. So even though like it's been 4 years since we've been divorced, and we've both have our own separate lives and things like that, but it still went back to that, what you're talking about of like the sabotage and trying to keep that cording and things. So then he tries to cord and connect still through different family members to try to keep that there. And then, but then, trying to find different ways to attack. But then, so it's the dimension of the dreams. So then, I had to go through and I'm like, I realized, I told Eric, I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, excuse my language. I wasn't protecting that prayer. I didn't protect myself in the different dimension in the dream world. And so it was like, I called myself out on that too. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to make sure that I'm, praying in this way, and I'm putting this grid up, and I'm protecting over here in this area, spiritual, physical, emotional. And so it's all these different levels of these grids that you have to put up, like you're talking. And so I've experienced that this past week.
Well, because I think after we cleared those cords and the energies, and it keeps trying to come back in, right, through different ways. And often those self-sabotagers will sabotage anyone around them that they've had a relationship with, and they try to keep that cord connected. Sometimes there can be resistance. So when you start to clear the cords, when there's resistance, it will literally cause the person pain when you're clearing it. So then you've got to get them to repeat after you and say, I clear all resistance from, and you say the person's name, and then from yourself, and clearing all sabotage and negativity and abuse and all of the layers of dynamics that come with it. And so, you have to basically clear the emotional, the physical, the spiritual. And then when there's been abuse involved as well, you have to do what's called taking back the soul essence of yourself, right? That's part of your power, taking back your power. No longer allowing anyone to overpower you or take your power. Right. Whether it's emotionally, physically, or spiritually. And so often what you'll have is like, when you think about power, basically your energy can get drained, right? This, what you would call the soul essence fragments, start to become tattered or teared, have little tears. And so, and then after a while, the body feels broken, right? Because the fragments of the body are all over the place in the energy field, and they aren't connected. And often when they come through our dreams too, and they're trying to connect that way, because now they're trying to get more deeper into the subconscious and into that layer, that spiritual layer of the subconscious of the body.
Right.
And affect things that way. That can cause anxiety, can cause fear, depression, stress, those kind of things can come up with it. And then keep that rolling over and over and over. And then when you do the healing ceremony of it, you ask the ancestors, the spirit animal, spirit guides to come in and bring back all the broken layers and heal those layers, those spiritual layers that belong to that person, and take back your power from that person.
Right.
No longer allowing them to control.
Right.
And so, and it really is amazing when you do that, because it almost feels like your energy is so empowered, right? And you're just on this high, basically, after it happens. And I know years and years ago, when I went through my divorce with Muhammad, I did a Cherokee healing ceremony, an energy ceremony, where I'm clearing the cords, I'm asking for forgiveness, and we'll do a little bit of that here today too at the end. And it's called the forgiveness ceremony, right? And that forgiveness ceremony basically is about healing and letting go, right? No longer carrying all those negativities with you, kind of letting go of the emotional baggage that comes with ourselves, right? Everything that we carry and what we may have inherited or something that we've taken on from others. It can come from parents too, or siblings that are toxic, those kind of things. So you can have, it's not always just relationships with an intimate person, it can be family relationships as well.
Right.
And so then you want to clear those things. I know when I did mine, for example, I'll give you an example about what happened was I cleared the cords to my ex. I was getting ready to leave and move out and then eventually file for divorce, right? So I was clearing those cords. I was all the way up in Seattle at a hypnosis conference for 2 weeks. I was up there, didn't talk to anyone. So I cleared the cords from my mother and my sister, who's always been a toxic person in my life, and my ex to be, right? At the time. And so when I did that, all of a sudden I just felt like, wow, my energy was so lifted up and I felt so great and energized and I felt happy again. And I just felt like, wow, I can move forward past all these things that have happened, and no longer hold them in my subconscious or conscious or physical body, because those things were physically draining me and causing me to become ill again. And so right after that happened, my ex he calls right after I cleared the cords, and he yells and screams at me and acts all crazy on the phone. And I was like, wait a minute, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks, didn't even talk to you. I just cleared these cords and now you're lashing out in anger over something I have nothing to do with, right? And I'm going, this is your own demise, it's not mine. And so I hung up on him and I was like, forget that guy, click. Right. Then right after, my mom calls, does the same thing to me and starts yelling and screaming about my sister, accusing me of something. And I hadn't talked to my sister in 7 years.
Oh my goodness.
So they're going, wow, okay, there's more stuff that needs to be resolved. So when that happens, it means there's still layers of elements that need to be clear, cut, and removed, stuff that still needs to be resolved. So then you do it again until it's completely leveled out and resolved, right? You're no longer being physically attacked, or verbally. And so I did it again. Now, mind you, I had 2.5 hours to drive back from Seattle to Vancouver, right? So I'm doing this in my car the entire time that I'm driving back. And I'm thinking and doing the whole ceremony and going through it in the car. And then all of a sudden I clear all those layers again. And now my energy is no longer drained again, because once they attacked me, it became drained. Right. So then I'm like, oh, I got to put up those barriers and, those protection grids this time. And so, and I did that, but at the same time, clearing other layers that still needed to be finished, right? Still needed to be resolved. And then when I did that the second time, then all of a sudden they're both calling me back, apologizing. This time I didn't answer. I just let it go to voicemail. And they're apologizing and saying all these beautiful, nice things. And I was like, wow, that is so not like them. Okay, but I'll accept it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, And so then I knew that once that happened, that I did the job, right? It worked, and that it helped me to move past and move on. And that's when I came home and I told my husband at the time, oh, I'm moving out in 3 months, just so you know. But I didn't give him the date that I was moving out. So I just moved, didn't tell him anything. And then he was like, and I was able to move on with no resentments, no anger, nothing, and just made peace with the situation.
Yeah.
And then he was able to let go as well and just say, okay, I can be at peace with this. But because he was having an affair with his coworker already, during the last year of our marriage, that it was kind of like, okay, I got to clear those cords out of that as well.
Right.
Just the mistrust or distrust of relationships, which can happen because you don't want to carry that same energy into a new relationship.
Exactly.
Of not being able to trust. And you got to be able to, I mean, sure, we all put up our barriers and boundaries when it comes to that. But at the same time, we have to learn how to trust all over again, right? With a new relationship. So when we clear those cords from the past stuff, then we're able to move forward into a positive new relationship with whoever, that is, in that time. And it allows you to, that energy field becomes more open between the dynamics of the new relationship. And then it no longer has that cloud hanging over it, from the past.
Right.
Basically.
So with that, let's go. She's going to do a little meditation for us that she was just talking about. And so that's what we're going to finish up with today, is we're going to do this little forgiveness meditation with Sherrie here that she's going to guide us through. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when we go through this, I'm going to play a little song for you that I wrote called Echoes of Time. And what the song is about is, things that have repeated themselves over time, right? But also echoes of things that we've experienced that we need to heal and let go of, right? And the vibration of the flute and the energy is really a healing element. I call the flute a healing medicine because it really is.
It is.
And that vibration. And sorry if my cat is meowing in the background. My mic picks up everything. So,
just wanted to say hi.
I know, right? He talks a lot. So anyway, we'll go through this piece. And what I'll do is I'll have everybody kind of get comfortable in that space that they can kind of sit back, close their eyes, kind of just let go of things, at the moment. And then we'll do some breathing exercises as we come into it. Okay. Let me get this started here. Hold on one sec. Technical difficulty. Right. There we are. Okay, there we are. Okay, I'm going to have you take a deep breath for me. And as you breathe out, I want you to think about letting go of any stress or pain in the physical body. Relaxing your head, your neck, your shoulders. Allowing your arms to relax and release all stress and tension. Allowing that mid and low back to release and heal from any past traumas to the physical body. And as you relax the hips, the thighs, all the way down to your calves, ankles, and feet, allowing your body to release any traumas, stress, cords, or elements that you no longer want to hold or carry. And I'll have you imagine that we're going to take a walk along a beautiful forest trail. And on that trail, you're carrying a backpack. And in that backpack are the layers of cords and dynamics of things that we've carried from others and ourselves that we want to release and let go. All those cords from past relationships that keep turmoil or trauma happening in that backpack. any abuse, layers of negativity, or self-sabotage in the backpack as well. Any anxiety, fear, depression that your body may carry, also in that backpack of emotional baggage. And as you take this journey along this beautiful forest trail, the forest is filled with beautiful trees and plants all around you. It is a sacred place just for you. A place that is safe and peaceful. A place where you can heal. And as you come along that trail, up ahead of you is a trash can at the side of the trail. And as you approach that trash can, you're going to take the backpack off. And as you take that backpack off of your back, you're going to unzip it and pour it into the trash can. And as you pour it into the trash can, releasing and letting go of all cords, negative energies, traumas, abuse, depression, anxiety, stress, worry, and fear. Releasing any past family layers of traumas going back many generations. Allowing it to heal and release as you pour it into the trash can. And as you empty out all those cords and layers from the past that you no longer want to carry, any stress from last year to many years before, letting that go. And as you release all the emotional baggage, all cords and connections from past relationships that you no longer carry or desire to carry. And as you release these elements, the backpack is completely empty, filled with nothing but air and positive energy. And as you put that backpack back on with that beautiful positive energy as it raises your vibration up, bringing healing to the physical and spiritual body. And I'll have you imagine along this trail is a beautiful raven flying over you. And the raven represents confidence, protection, healing. And as that raven takes back your power, it allows your energy to feel strong and bringing back the beautiful dynamics of your physical energy, allowing your energy to feel vibrant, refreshed, completely strong. And as you walk this trail along this beautiful forest of transformation, taking that journey to release past cords and energies you no longer desire to carry. And I'll have you imagine the raven goes to all the people that have caused trauma, stress, abuse of any kind, and he's going to cut those cords for you. Whether you carry it in your chest, your back, your neck, your head, wherever your body feels pain or stress or drained energy. And that raven is going to bring back the soul parts and soul essences of you for healing. And as that raven comes back to you, I want you to imagine in that backpack is a beautiful healing energy. And the raven is going to put those cords and your power back into that positive element, back into that backpack, rebuilding your power, your energy with positivity, love, and light, bringing nothing but the highest, best, and good for your purpose. And as you're walking along this beautiful trail of transformation, I'll have you imagine you're going to come up to a tree, and that tree is going to give you a leaf inscripted with forgiveness. And as you absorb that energy of forgiveness, saying to all those people out there that have caused trauma, physical or emotional pain, I forgive you. Please forgive me too. I release you. I clear and remove all sabotage, all cords that cause negativity or draining energy or illness. I release and heal all these layers. And as that energy forgiveness flows through your body, it is a healing element. It is a positive, higher vibration. And as you walk along this trail, you're going to come up to another tree, and that tree will give you a leaf inscripted with confidence and self-empowerment. And as you take that confidence and self-empowerment, absorbing that into the emotional backpack, renewing your confidence, that positive energy that your body flows with and recognizes. And as you take that journey, continuing it down that trail, taking that confidence, self-empowerment, forgiveness, and healing energy with you. And as you go to the end of the trail, coming to that last tree, that tree is going to hand you a leaf inscripted with motivation and healing. And as you take that motivation and healing, putting that in your backpack, raising that positive vibration of motivation and healing and the energy of worthiness, feeling worthy of this healing element. And as you come back through that trail, taking with you these beautiful healing energies of confidence, worthiness, self-empowerment, forgiveness, and healing, bringing all those energies back with you. And as you start to walk back towards the trail that you came from, taking with you these beautiful, empowered, motivated, confident energies. And as you move forward into that future element of you, taking with you all the positivities, healing, confidence, and worthiness, and taking back your power, owning your power and giving yourself permission to own it. Having that independence and confidence that comes with it. And as you come to the end of the trail there, as you start to open your eyes, your body feels refreshed and recharged. As you shake those hands out in your feet, bringing back that positive element of energy, confidence, worthiness, self-empowerment, allowing nothing but positivity to exist around you. And I'll have you imagine there's a layer of white light all around you, healing and protecting to the four directions. And I'll have you imagine the protection being to the north, south, east, and west, above and below, in and out, in all spaces around you. And we ask that our ancestors that bring the highest, best, and good to our purpose to surround us with that positive energy and healing. from all ancestral traits, healing those traits, bringing forgiveness into anything that needs to be forgiven and healed and released. And taking that deep breath again, I want you to imagine as you come back into that space, bringing forth love and light, healing energy all around you. And as you start to open your eyes and feeling that refreshed, positive energy, it is filled with love, light, and healing. And taking a deep breath again, allowing nothing but love and light, healing and positive energy to surround you. Releasing any layers, cords that you no longer desire to carry. And taking a deep breath again. Releasing anything left and bringing in that love and light, positive energy and protection all around you. And as we start to open our eyes and feel that positive, loving energy, we bring to ourselves and we give ourselves permission to release all negativities. And taking a deep breath again. How are you feeling so far?
Ooh, I feel good. I don't know about you guys, but I feel really like energized and like renewed in a sense, light. I feel that confidence and that strength, the balance. I feel that protection. I feel the weight that was on my shoulders, that was before we did this, is no longer there. I feel it's a little like sore, but I feel like I'm not like being like shoved down into the ground at this moment.
Right.
I started getting like this tingling energy, like that peaceful, calm, love, that light energy moving through my body as we started going through the layers of the body. I could feel that just kind of just finally just going down, almost like going into that hypnotic state of mind of releasing, and then walking down that trail. It was like I could already see that there was going to be a trash at the end of the trail before you even started saying it. So I was like, all right, I'm shoving all of this stuff in there. I'm like, as much as I can get in that back, we're shoving it in there and we're going to dump it. I know we're dumping it somewhere. So I'm like really shaking it out, like turning it inside out even, and trying to get every last little crumb that could be in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I feel really good. While I was doing that, I'm like, because I've been working on meditations for sound bowl therapy and things like that.
Right.
And I've actually been trying to figure out how to incorporate talking while doing my sound bowl, because it's hard to multitask at the same time. So as I was doing this, and actually it came into my mind yesterday, I was like, I should be doing this with Sherrie. Why aren't we doing this? So we're gonna connect and talk about this. So guys, stay tuned. I've got some ideas working up of combining meditations with Sherrie with the sound bowls and doing guided meditations, because I have some guided meditations I've been wanting to do, but it's a lot of work doing the recording over the sound bowl and things like that. And so I'm working on the technology, but if we can have two together, then it makes it easier to go through that whole time and then sharing that space together. So
right. It does. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So thank you. We're about to get cut off here in a minute. Most everyone, thank you for joining today, and thank you, for coming on and sharing, your wisdom with us again and knowledge. And stay tuned. We'll be having Sherrie back on for some more things throughout the year and time to come. So we have lots of stuff to talk and share about. So stay tuned and Happy New Year. And if you didn't get to watch my last podcast, go watch it. It's some really good stuff about setting goals going into the new year. So I would, highly suggest you go watch that if you want some things and tools to kind of get you started and goal setting for the year to come, going into this new year. So Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you soon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.